sun was barely down when she gave up and went to bed. The afternoon's busy work had failed to distract her. Whether she got the job or not, she had failed herself. No point in staying up, or in getting up tomorrow, for that matter. Nothing was going to change. Ridiculous to imagine she could get herself to do anything different. Far less likely now that she'd realized she was 15 years behind. Tonight, she hadn't managed her usual routines. Her crunches, the crossword in the Raleigh paper, getting the day's diet Coke cans out of the car, the pitiful drabness of the list. It was putting her to sleep. Moonlight was all over the room when she woke, the board floor grooved with shadows. She was, in an instant, fully awake. Surely such brightness didn't come in at this hour every night, or every full moon. The air full of a wafting happiness that passed through her again and again. Tears sprang up in her eyes, such startling joy. She felt awash in liquid light. Last night's clothes that she'd thrown over the back of the chair, jeans still holding the curve of her hips, blue and white top, dangling bra, together formed an image of falling water, a torrent seen from a distance. Her bed seemed floating in light as palpable as clear brilliant water, and in the center of the room a loose coil of shining blue spun, spiraled upward, gone, a trick of moonlight against the mirror. In the reflection there, she saw clearly her face, the full upper lip, almost smiling, wide-set, heavy-lidded eyes, narrow shoulders, the tops of her breasts. She widened her gaze to take in the room. What she saw stopped her breath. The sharpness of every object, the jar of mascaras, the eyeliner pencils, her canvas shoulder bag on the doorknob, astonishing, as if instantly made real from what had merely been a sketch. Her eyes lingered over each detail, memorizing its new face, awash in gratitude for its existence. The window panes, the half-open door to the closet, the woven light and dark of the straw hat she never wore. Her normal, dry schedule, daily work, her silent house, the plodding line of clients and errands and repeating scenery, had shrunk to no more than a vantage point, a place to stand to take in what was before her. Her body, naked against the sheet, thrillingly naked to the air, felt boundless, weightless, prickly desire to rub her mouth over all she saw, to drink the colors, to die of sex, made her stomach quake, the need in itself a pleasure. She wanted to dissolve into the sensation. She willed it, begged it, to enter her through every pore. When she woke again, the bedroom looked ordinary in the gray pre-dawn. Well, of course, what had she expected? The full moon extravaganza had ended. What she could remember felt dreamlike, the bright light that was somehow exciting. She sat up chilly on the side of the bed, sheet clutched around her against the damp air. She was ungodly thirsty. Okay, so I skipped about this many pages. And she already knows that trouble has begun for her, and she doesn't know what happened to her. There's a further episode of something sort of like that. And what she decides is to go to the beach by herself to think things over, which is the time-honored thing to do if you're feeling overly frisky. Of course, she would not get in any trouble. I'm just going to read about her starting toward the beach. Up ahead, the light was brightening on the metal roofs, the white of frame houses, glare rising by the second. Riding into a town, the long-awaited Swansboro jump-off point to the Outer Banks bottom tip. The beach was going to fix everything. The road swung right, and all at once sun sparked off water on every side, the blast of light so gorgeous it felt like a high piano note all around her. She wanted to slow and bask in the sensation, but the traffic carried her out onto the bridge. Seagulls skimming and diving off to the right, so much to see and all of it shockingly vivid. This was how she'd felt in the studio, exultant. She had hold of it again. Such a swoop of delight, expansiveness, as if airy spaces had opened between her cells, as if she'd physically lightened. But already it was slipping away, the fullness and ease. She was sinking, the colors around her going dull, her vision darkening, plummeting back into ordinary, or worse. She let out a shaky breath. The feeling was gone, and so quickly. She pushed down disappointment, because after all the feeling had returned, a trace of it, a few seconds of the unearthly surge of well-being. Now she knew it could come back. A bird, an everyday physical seagull, flapping hard, lifted off the water with a flash of silver in its beak. She wanted to reach a long arm out and help him rise, as if having felt for an instant such overflowing health, she had the strength to keep birds in the air. The feel of the tires against the pavement abruptly altered as she drove back onto land, the inland side of the barrier island. She pulled in at the first stopping place, Dudley's Marina, selling gas and tackle. Jamming her feet into her worn-to-gray Nikes, she got out, stretched her legs, one and then the other, sturdy old cheerleader calves. The damp air felt divine. She wanted to lie down on it. She yawned, a great gaping, head-clearing yawn. Shoelaces dragging, she was not going to be here long. She walked around the corner of the store to get closer to the water. Behind the building were the docks, where sailboats and yachts were tied. She breathed in the mixed scent of bleached shells and mud, salt, creosote, and the fumes from the gas pumps. This was what she had come for, a whiff of this. The scene out beyond the boats was sky and water and the high white dune on the other side of the channel. A ski boat was passing with two young guys standing up at the helm. Funny to have the urge to draw a place because it smells good. She leaned back against a waist-high oil can somebody had painted Gulfstream blue. Her checkbook was the only paper in her bag. She'd made a point of not bringing a sketch pad. She pulled off the top check, 4437. Drop a 4, and she'd have the balance in her account. Even if she took the senator's commission and used it to travel, she'd never live in the delicious way she had as a child. The family romance was over. She'd known that for a long time, of course, but the absence of Charlie made every other absence feel tender again. At moments, her solitude felt huge, inescapable, as if she were trapped alone in an empty airplane hangar, even as she sat out here in the sun. Her hand moved slowly across the wavy pastel of the back of the check, as if she were making a cut with a scalpel. She'd stop at the first flicker from the injured wrist. She roughed in the tops of the distant trees, the edge of the channel, the sand bluff. A light wind was running through the marsh, flattening the grass for a second in spots here and there, and the water, moving fast. The tide must be going out. Hi there, little lady. A man stood almost at her side, a big guy in canvas boat shoes, his neck and face sunburned a red so dark it hurt her to look at it. Inside his collar, beyond where the line of red stopped, he was white as a hard-boiled egg. Hi, she said, turning back to her drawing, though you shouldn't address a woman as a little lady. 3 swipes, and she had the channel marker and the water sweeping past it. That kind of talk isn't fashionable, you know. Is that so? He had a nice laugh that echoed off the wall and out toward the marsh. You're full of beans, he said. I admire that. What are you drawing? All that I survey. She kept her attention on her paper, then on the curve of marsh, adding a boat that wasn't there and made no sense at all. It was way out of proportion to the rest of the scene. As soon as she was gone, she would throw this away and start over.